You're listening to Synergy to Synastry, the podcast where two corporate girlies called to follow their intuition take you on a journey of self-exploration through metaphysical modalities.
I'm Christine, intuitive coach and clairvoyant.
And I'm Renee, psychic intuitive and astrologer.
We're excited that you're here and honored to be your spiritual guides. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen. It helps listeners find our show, plus it automatically enters you into our raffles to win a free psychic reading.
Now, let's get into the episode.
So I got an email this morning from my building saying that the water line in the bathrooms is going to be shut down from like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
That's going to be fun.
Really fun, especially since my cats are very, they think the building is theirs, the entire building. They are not plumbers, but they do think they are Mario and Luigi. So it's going to be a day over here. Pray for me.
They're Mario and Luigi.
Weren't they plumbers?
Yes, you're right. I had to take a couple seconds to process. It's like, wait, what? And then I got it.
But on that note, we are talking about the home today. So of course I had a faux pas with my home.
Yeah, what divine timing, if you will. Today we're going to be talking about a term that many of our listeners may be familiar with, Feng Shui. In this episode, we'll cover what is Feng Shui, our experiences with this modality, as well as tons of tips and a handful of no-nos for incorporating Feng Shui into your living space.
So I'm really excited to jump into this. Feng Shui is an ancient Chinese practice centered on making the most of the energy around us or working with the energy around us to create a more aligned space, experience, or life. This energy is called qi, but all cultures have a word for this type of energy. So in yoga, which is from India, this is called Shakti or prana, and those may be words that sound familiar if you've ever taken a yoga class. And even in Christianity, this can be referred to as the Holy Spirit. It's all connected.
Qi is spelled Qi, in case you're trying to picture it as we are talking, because we will mention it a few times during this conversation. Qi is a life force energy, and it's something that you can feel, not see. It's believed in this practice of Feng Shui that you are cultivating it within your space by taking certain actions. Just to set the scene a little bit more here, when we're talking about energies, what's really fundamental in Feng Shui are the yin and yang energies. These are the feminine versus masculine. Everybody can have yin and yang energy. Other ways of framing them are yin being a receiving or more quiet energy, and yang being more active, publicly visible. And yin and yang are further broken down into 5 different elements: fire, metal, earth, wood, and water. They are distinct but integrated, so they work with one another and are used in the I Ching, which is a sacred text, Chinese astrology, as well as Chinese medicine.
Thank you for that. I love all the extra details. So, listener, you're probably asking yourself, why did Renee and I decide to do an episode on Feng Shui? Why are we drawn to it? What's our experience? For me, the one thing I can confidently say after starting this intuitive journey that we've been on is that everything is energy. I didn't grow up with Feng Shui. I was actually introduced to it as a teenager when I found a book on luck, and there was one chapter literally about Feng Shui, and I've been hooked on it ever since. It's sort of like lived as a thread in the back of my mind. But my dream one day would be to have an expert come into my home and help me jazz it up, or like buy or build a home that's situated optimally for Feng Shui. I just love the idea of energy being able to move freely in the way that it needs to around my home. What about you, Renee?
I heard Feng Shui as a term, like people using it a lot in pop culture of, oh, let me move this couch over here, there's more Feng Shui. And it was almost framed like it was a joke. So it was diminished in a lot of ways, which of course is culturally disrespectful. And I don't know exactly when I first heard about it. Somehow, in my years of searching for different podcasts on a variety of spiritual topics, came upon one that we'll include in the show notes. And they have a ton of episodes. Most of them are pretty short, so it's an easy listen. And I tend to pick and choose if I'm particularly interested in a certain topic or forecast. And using this podcast, I actually took a look at my space. The main tool that I learned about is the Bagua map. So I'm going to give an overview of what that is. So if you would like to pause and hop over to our social and check out the Bagua, you can look at it while I give the explanation. The Bagua is a map of any space, so it can be of a house or it can be applied to a single room. And so in my case, I was looking at it from the perspective of my bedroom. And it's divided into 9 segments. Squares if your room is perfectly square, but if it's not, then they'll be slightly irregularly shaped. Each of the units has symbolism tied to it. Ultimately, you can organize your furniture, select decor, and accessories within each of these spatial units to link up with the qi.
It's one of the easier types of feng shui to understand because the directions don't change based on the Chinese zodiac, where they do in other modalities. And Miss Feng Shui has a great blog post on this, so I'll link her website in the show notes.
I want to preface this by saying, if you choose to use a Bagua map, it is not recommended to change everything. If you're looking at your space and going, oh, well, like I don't have this here and I have that there, let me change the whole room. No. The recommendation is to really consider what areas of life you are trying to manifest in, nurture, or have more energetic support in, and focus on those 1 to 3 topics. Once those changes have manifested, there's some sort of a shift, there's more balance, then you can move on to the next one or group. But trying to fix everything, quote unquote, fix everything all at once is not the intention, because what that's carrying is this desire to have things be perfect and also really asserting control. In Feng Shui, the kitchen represents prosperity and health. So if you hear that and you're saying, well, that's why we bought a home with 2 kitchens, that's trying to rig the system. That is taking it a bridge too far. The work of Feng Shui, there is a calling in and there's also creating space to receive at the same time. And you're having the energy flow through versus forcing an outcome. Trying to achieve or have everything, you're not in a space of receiving.
I feel like this is also a good time to point out that feng shui literally means wind and water.
Mm.
If we think about those 2 elements, they are free. Like without a container, they need to flow wherever. The energy of feng shui is allowing the air to flow, the water to flow.
That actually really helps a lot in conceptualizing this, because you can put water in a container. As an example, you can pressurize air, put it in a container, but it matters what the container is, which is why when you're assessing your house, considering what's going where, what each object represents, what each room represents. Going back to the Bagua a little bit, I mentioned before there are 9 squares or units within the map, and these are the themes for them. So you can keep these in mind. Wealth and prosperity, reputation, Taylor's version, just kidding. Relationships, family, health, creativity and children, knowledge and personal development, career, helpful people, and travel. And one thing I want to point out that I love and appreciate about this map is that health is the center square. This really illustrates how your health is the foundation and it touches every area of your life. So if your health is out of whack, then your relationships, connection to creativity, how you are operating in your career, etc., there is a ripple effect. Within each of these units, there are also colors and or elements tied to them based on Chinese astrology. For example, the family section is green and associated with the wood element. And the last thing that you need to know about the Bagua maps is the orientation of the map is crucial. And you can figure out which way your map should be pointed by using a compass. For example, reputation is due south.
And never forget that moss grows on the north side of the tree.
Oh, gosh. And see, that would work if...
I'm sorry, I'm cracking myself up because who has a tree with moss in their house?
Well, the point is that somebody could, and you would put it in the family section because it's green and wood element.
Ah, see? Get yourself some moss, kids.
Now, we're going to share some principles of Feng Shui that we think could be potentially useful for you. Also, as a PSA, don't worry if you are unable to implement these in your living space. There are always adjustments. There are always workarounds. It is not the end of the world if you cannot do these to your house, apartment, condo, wherever you're based.
Okay, this first one is really easy, and it's something that I use when setting up my apartment. I don't have a lot of space, but sleeping is a priority for me. In Feng Shui, sleeping north to south aligns your energy and promotes positive energy or qi. So while you're sleeping and resting up for the next day, you're also aligning with your own source energy. It's like a 2-for-1. I tried sleeping the opposite way one night to see what would happen if I slept south to north, and I had nightmares. I feel like all of the modalities that we talk about are more of an experience rather than this is how you should be doing things. And this fun fact is for the scientists out there. I've heard that sleeping this way also aligns with Earth's electromagnetic energy. So my advice is try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, pretend you never heard this. The next tip we have, we love cats on this podcast. So I also want to talk about this little Japanese princess, the lucky cat, or as it's known in Japan, maneki neko. While this cat has its origins in Japan and not China, I feel like this is definitely something you've seen before. These cats are associated with calling in prosperity, and you can have them in your own business or at home. The most common interpretation is that the left hand waving calls in customers and foot traffic, while the right hand waving calls in abundance and fortune. When placing a lucky cat in your home, you'll want to make sure that the cat is elevated so it can be admired, as with any cat. If it's possible, orient the cat towards the southeastern part of your space, as these directions are associated with wealth and the positive flow of energy or qi.
I want to touch on tips related to your specific floor plan, which Christine started to bring up in her cat placement tip. One of the most important considerations is the entryway. There's aspects of what I'm about to say which will not apply to an apartment, but if you have any sort of a house that has an external facing front door connected directly to the outside, going to a parking lot or street or driveway or anything. One way to help qi flow into your space is making sure that the entryway is clear and identifiable for outsiders. It's clean, well lit, and accessible from the street. I will say, our house, it is a running joke. The signage is really confusing. Delivery people and people that visit who've never been here before always have trouble finding it. And we have a gigantic bush that blocks our front door. Once you get to the stairs and you walk up to them, it's well lit, it's clean, it has, all that other stuff. Next thing to consider, having an office or living room near the front door. The reason for this is because these are both spaces for receiving people. So it helps to pull the energy in from the outside. Something that's discussed a lot in Feng Shui, the center of a room or center of the house is the heart. What's the heartbeat of your living space? What is the central room? That is carrying a lot of significance for what your space is representing. The last principle of Feng Shui for floor plan that I wanted to mention, which is one that I considered when assessing my space, and I'll explain how I did it in a second, this idea of the commanding position, that you are diagonal from and facing the entrance, that you have a sight line to the door without having to turn around. As Christine can see, because she's looking at me over video, I am sitting at my desk in my room and my door is behind me. When I learned about this, guess what I did? In order to make my desk a position of command, I put a mirror on my desk. This does get some laughs when people come into my room and I'm sitting here and I'm smiling at them or making a funny face in the mirror, but it puts me in command of the space because I can always see behind me.
Hey, listener, as a reminder, this podcast isn't sponsored, but we're taking a quick break to let you know what we're up to and ways that you can support us. Sign up for my newsletter called La Revista on Substack. I'm going to be incorporating some different modalities into my practice, such as dream analysis, human design, and astrology. The newsletter will be the best place to hear about any of these upcoming offerings first, and I may need some volunteers to help me refine the offering, so if you're open to that, best place to check.
As a reminder, throughout 2025, I have an ongoing 25% off special through my business, Read by Renee. You can schedule for any date that you would like. It's just a matter of purchasing during your birth month. Also, I have a blog. It's my messages blog. And if you are interested in reading my metaphysical musings or getting an astro weather breakdown, be sure to check that out. And last thing I wanted to plug, I recently launched a Perfection Year Guide, which you can find in the shop on my website.
There are some practices that you can incorporate if you're looking to call in a new relationship or just to keep your bedroom a relaxing and tranquil place. Regardless of where your bedroom is in your house, the bedroom is associated with relationships and love. Renee just brought up a hack that she has to help move the energy around more in her space. Mirrors reflect things in real life and in Feng Shui. It's recommended to not have mirrors in the bedroom because they can reflect negative energy back to you while you sleep or busy your mind, which can interrupt that beautiful sleep that we were looking forward to earlier after making sure we were sleeping north and south. You can A, cover the mirror, or you can B, move it. For me, my bathroom door faces my bed when it's closed, and there's a mirror built into the door. So I just open the door so that the mirror isn't facing me anymore while I sleep, and that's my little hack to make that happen. In terms of decorating the bedroom, plants, like mirrors, bring in active energy, so leave those out of the bedroom. Along with work, you don't want to have your desk or any fitness equipment in your bedroom if you can help it. Whatever you decorate it with, we want to cultivate like a warm, relaxing, and loving experience. And take down any pictures of your friends or family or even an ex. I slept in my Nona's bedroom and she has pictures of the family everywhere. And we woke up one night, the guy that I was dating, and she has a crucifix of Jesus and like Jesus was staring at him. I always think of that. Like you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night with someone staring at you in your private space. And lastly, pairs, not the fruit pear, but pairs of things, pairs of pillows, pairs of lamps, pairs of end tables. So the goal is to make sure that even if you haven't met your partner yet, you're making space for them, right? They have a pillow, they have an extra blanket, they have an end table to put their things in.
Cute. I have heard that not even necessarily in the Feng Shui lens, but I'm recognizing it relates, where for a manifestation practice, one way that it's suggested if you're trying to call in a relationship is empty a drawer out in your room. So make space as if somebody could come over and they'd have room for their stuff.
That's another good idea. And I feel like, again, we're not experts in Feng Shui, but I feel like that fits, like you said.
Mm-hmm. I also want to acknowledge that pretty much all of the tips that you just said, I don't have any of those in my room. The ways that I am, quote unquote, breaking these rules, they're literally very small. Like I have one picture, it's super tiny. I have one mirror, it's small and it's functional specifically for making my desk a command center. And then the plant that I have is a small succulent sitting on my windowsill.
It's probably not causing an issue for you whatever's coming up for you obviously isn't something that's affected by a tiny succulent or the tiniest of mirrors.
Right, right. If you have crystals as an example, obviously each of the crystals has some sort of significance, but if you understand the Bagua map in your space, you could put certain crystals in certain units. And that can help amplify some of the energy and what you're trying to call in. I do that all the time. I'm not even looking at the Bagua map. I just have crystals that happen to be placed in certain areas in my room. And every once in a while, I'll have like a little ping to swap them out, rotate them, put different ones in different spots. If I was really paying attention and not just following the intuition, I'd probably pull out the Bagua map. Now that I have intuitively placed all these crystals, what does that actually translate to?
That would be a fascinating way to read yourself.
Last thing I want to talk about tips-wise, when this episode drops, we will have passed the astrological new year. We'll have had our 2 eclipses, a fresh start, new beginnings. It's a great time for spring cleaning. Here are a few feng shui tips for your spring cleaning. Sound. You can use music, clapping, a sound bowl, literally using energy to shift the qi. You can also open windows or blinds, so you're cleansing the space, if you will, with the air or with light coming in. And you could also sage your space. That's pretty common. Next, you can clean, but it's recommended per feng shui that you start cleaning your space or your house from the center out. You can also get new plants or flowers, classic spring ones such as tulips or daffodils. The idea here is that you are bringing new life in. So you are leaning into and supporting that spring beginning energy. And finally, once you have done any or all of these practices, you can do some intention setting. What am I calling in for the year ahead? Literally, figuratively, plant those seeds.
One of the most satisfying feelings, and this could be my Virgo energy, is putting on good music and cleaning, like a good deep clean for like 2 hours. That makes me so happy. Some great music and a spray bottle. Like, I am so happy to be here.
No, I feel you. It makes sense energetically, so I understand why it's incorporated into feng shui. Because even if you just do a deep clean in one room, I got to get this bathroom under control. You go, you get rid of all of your old bottles, you're consolidating things, you're getting a new organizer, you're cleaning every single surface. Then you walk in, you actually feel different because the space feels different. And that's really what we are talking about with this feng shui work. If you go into a space that is bland, fully undecorated, messy, there is a vibe that it gives off. I think we can all at least understand from that perspective. Layering on this feng shui work, it just gives you a set of guided principles. And what we've been talking about today are only some of the many. And there are professionals that you can work with if you'd like to have your space assessed and make adjustments.
If anybody is a feng shui expert and wants to come on the podcast or come redo my apartment, let me know. Putting that out there. Okay. Renee, tell us some things that we should be aware of.
Yeah, so now it's time for the rapid fire no-nos in feng shui. One of them is blocked doors. Circling back to what I was talking about with the floor plan, your entryway into a given space matters. So if a door is blocked, if you're unable to open it, this is really representing a blockage to qi flowing into and out of a space. Also, a no-no, having dying plants or dried or chemically preserved plants or flowers, because a lack of life equals a lack of qi. If you have any foggy, antique, or broken mirrors, getting rid of those ASAP because they distort the energy and they're representing a lack of clarity. If possible, when you are looking at a new space, avoiding one that has a staircase, bathroom, or stove in the center of the house. Under the bed storage, another thing that I am totally doing. I have limited space in this room. I want things tucked away, and I don't want my closet overflowing. I have all of my old journals under my bed, yearbooks, elementary school, like random school stuff from growing up, like papers and things I kept. And then I do have clothes, hats and scarves, and I have art supplies. From the Feng Shui perspective, it's recommended to not have anything under your bed, but if you can't avoid it, have items that are soft and relaxing, such as pillows and blankets. You consider the Bagua map and you say, where is my bed? That's some of the energy that you are absorbing each night when you're sleeping. And now you add on top, what are the items under my bed and what do those items represent?
How sweet is it that a Cancer rising has like childhood nostalgia memories under their bed in Feng Shui? I don't know. I know it might be like a no, quote unquote, but I think that's like the sweetest thing.
I do have the piece of paper from when I did the Bagua map for my room.
Mm-hmm.
My bed is positioned in the northeast unit. The northeast represents wisdom, and the signs are earth and water, which are my two prominent signs in my chart. My bed is in the knowledge and personal development section, which is so on brand for me. Having childhood things under my bed, it's like having a connection and looking back. What's my wisdom? I literally have papers that I wrote in like high school and college also under my bed. So I do have some knowledge that's in there, and it gives me a reference point to what and my journals. Those are all collections of things. Wait, my bed's great.
I really feel like when you go in for a reading of any modality, tarot, astrology, you're already working with the energy that's affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And a modality kind of just brings it to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Feng Shui is doing that right now, further proving this theory that I have. So fascinating.
Wait, I haven't looked at this in so long, and this is honestly hilarious. So I was talking about how my desk is not in my career section, but it's in my recognition, like my reputation section.
Is that ninth house stuff?
Technically, in astrology, they're both 10th house, but they're split up in here. That it's associated with fire. That house for me is in a fire sign. And red. And here I am sitting with my heated red blanket.
Oh my God.
I have inadvertently totally mapped onto my Bagua map.
I love this. I'm so obsessed.
This is fun. And my plant. My plant is in the abundance wood section. So my succulent is in the perfect spot.
See? Everything is energy. You just got to manipulate it to work in the way that it works for you.
My room's fine. I feel so much better now.
Okay, it's time for our dream segment. I dreamt that I was given a newborn baby, and then I was at the beach floating in the water with an inflatable neck pillow. The water was clear and calm and warm, and I wondered what would happen if I fell asleep because I was so relaxed. Would I just drift into the middle of the ocean? Like, what if I just surrendered? And then I woke up. It was a very peaceful transition. Babies usually symbolize innocence or new beginnings. And if you find a baby in your dream, then it suggests you've acknowledged your hidden potential. Water represents the subconscious and your emotional state. So the fact that the water was clear and calm in this dream would mean that I'm in tune with my spirituality. It denotes serenity, peace of mind, rejuvenation. In a book about dream symbols that I have, warm water represents illness, which is interesting because I was also fighting off the start of a cold at this time. And the last thing here is the neck support was really big. So your neck in your dream signifies the relationship between the mind and the body. And when you feel super supported, it's one is supporting the other. In total, if I had to analyze this dream for myself, I've acknowledged some inner stuff about myself, which I certainly have. And my mental and my physical, they're finally on the same track. I feel very in tune with my spirituality, and I can confirm that I do feel that way. Renee, tell us what your dream was.
Congrats on the nice message you received in this dream. It's very validating. It's funny. The dream that I picked, because I also felt like I was getting a message about where my progress is at. with really all the same themes that you were talking about. I was in my childhood home in the upstairs bathroom, which is the main one that my siblings and I used, kind of being nervous about like slipping and falling back into the shower and like hitting my head or something. For anyone that is familiar, this is a throwback, but for me, it's not. I know exactly why I dreamed this. A couple people in the group, The Lonely Island from SNL, Andy Samberg, and then one of the other guys, I don't even remember which one it was. And then I kind of looked at Andy and said something to the effect of, hey, if you have anybody that you know that's like similar to you in personality, like let me know. Soliciting for like a reference or something through him. And then I leave the bathroom and I go into my brother's bedroom and he's sitting on his bed. His fiance, Rachel, is on the floor. And the two of them each have one of my divination decks. My brother has my tarot cards. And he's flipping through them and like tossing them onto the floor. I start scooping them up, kind of saying to them, you shouldn't treat the cards like that. And then I head out to leave and I spot Rachel and she was using one of my oracle decks and she was just really slowly and methodically flipping through each of the cards. I walk into my bedroom and my sister's sitting in there. They were in there with my cards, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, that was like so disrespectful. And that was all I could remember. I was analyzing this. And it kind of works out to actually have picked this dream for this Feng Shui episode because I was looking at the significance of the house. My dream began in the bathroom, and the bathroom in dreams can symbolize root chakra or self-preservation. And very interesting to be paired with the fact that I was preoccupied with getting injured. But what I was able to pull in as a potential interpretation for this is a recommendation to check in on your body and actually slow down. To back up a little bit, the fact that I'm in my childhood home, that can symbolize healing the past or seeking something that feels familiar and like a comfort for you. The part about my cards, your items are being mistreated or handled by other people, feelings of inferiority or some sort of imposter syndrome. And then also the organizing piece. So I was trying to pick up the cards and gather them. And that can represent that there's some sort of disorder in your life that you have to address. How I was trying to interpret what this dream might mean. One thing that came to mind was, hey, I'm not really using my tarot cards. Maybe I'm just getting flagged to actually use them. But some of the parts of checking in on myself. Am I really feeling secure? What things do I need to tend to? What changes do I need to address to get balanced or feel like I'm grounded? You're not going to have any sort of sense of inferiority if you feel safe, if your root chakra is locked in. So that seemed to be the bigger thread for me. And of course, my brain goes to my whack sleep schedule. Same thing with the Bagua, where we're talking about the health is the center. So if the health is off, it's going to affect everything else. So that's my guess. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
The only thought I had when you were talking, and you didn't touch on this, I wonder if your brother and his fiance represented yin and yang energy or masculine and feminine energy. Because your brother was treating the cards much more differently than his fiance was.
Yeah.
Your brother's energy is like frantic and aggressive. And do we put that energy towards it, or do we put the feminine, light and soft energy towards it? Blah, blah, blah. And obviously it feels like a combination of the two, but they're at war with each other at the moment. Does that make sense for you? Because that's like literally what's happening in my head.
It kind of makes sense in that, in general, I've been using my cards more, but I haven't really been using the tarot cards at all. But I have been shifting my framework around how I view myself as a reader. I've learned in talking to different people, whether it's individuals that I'm providing readings for or other practitioners, that I read cards in a very specific way that's different than other people. So that's where I thought the imposter syndrome piece was interesting, because I feel more confident in what I'm doing and what I'm bringing, and I know that it works. But there is a whole other thing. Do you let other people touch them? Even though like Rachel's on the floor and she was treating them gently, should she have been touching the cards? Is that still a violation? Because my reaction in the dream was I was telling my sister like, oh my gosh, could you believe what they were doing? I wasn't even just talking about him. It was like the fact that they were both handling them.
No, this is really interesting. Keep us posted on what happens, because I think there's like a lot of juicy stuff in here.
And now, our channeled messages for the week. The first thing that came through for me was the word refraction. You are seeing the light and the world around you in a new way. Doors are opening, shadows are starting to dissipate. And then I was seeing you holding a globe, and it looked like a cross between a crystal ball and a snow globe. There's a scene that's playing out inside of it, and it's representing your personal vision for the future. And then the quote came in, you have a role to play. We were getting pivoted to a little bit of a movie imagery here. So there's a script of your life, and you're encouraged to read between the lines and the act breaks so that you know what's crucial for your next steps to help you get ahead of the plot twists. And then I had a mantra, which made me laugh. I open at the close. That was hysterical to me because there was like a little movie spin that was coming. Just to kind of break that down a little bit, I was talking at the beginning, different doors opening, things closing and ending. So we have a little bit of the beginning and ending. For anybody familiar with Harry Potter, the scene that I'm referring to, the I open at the close, was they had trouble figuring out how to open the snitch up. Paying attention to the details, really assessing your situation, and reading between the lines will then help you figure out what you need to do next.
We love a good Harry Potter reference over here. I think Spirit knows that. Okay, so in my reading, I start out in the scene. It's nighttime. There's lights. I'm in a small town and there's some sort of celebration going on. All of the lights are red, orange, or yellow against like the dark of the night. I immediately think of our lower chakras, our root, our sacral, our solar plexus, and that's where security, reproductive health, our confidence, all of that comes from. And as I zoom out, you know the Christmas village that like your grandparents usually have out at Christmas, the little houses or whatever? And I realized that feels so fake. I want something real. I want something genuine. So I look over and I open up my windows and I get fresh air in the room, and it just changes the energy or the mood of the space. The message that I'm getting from this is your unique spin on what feels right is what's important, not what is perfect or considered perfect or what is considered happy. You know what feels right. You know what feels good to you. And I see us sort of decorating our bedroom, but it reminds me of those quirky Manhattan apartments where someone's been living there for like 45 years. They have all like weird art and paintings and newspaper clippings and photos of ancestors and that chair that they got while they were on vacation one time. That's what I feel like is representative of our life. More a reminder, if you're listening, to do what works for you, as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're not hurting yourself. And of course, the mantra that I got for us was a little Frankie Sinatra singing, I did it my way.
A classic.
Classic. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more, the resources we used to prepare for this episode are listed in the show notes.
If you're curious to develop your intuition, we've partnered with the Nuurvana Be Light program to give our listeners a $500 discount on tuition fees. Email us for more details and we'll connect you with the founder, Deganit Noor.
Want to connect with us? You can reach me, Christine, at Channeled by Christine with one L on Instagram.
And you can reach me, Renee, at _read by Renee, or connect with us both via email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com.
Keep your spirit curious and your aura sparkling.
We'll see you when the stars next align.
I just want to point out.
What?
I am a child, but you said we have a big bush like 2 to 3 times, and I almost peed my pants. So I don't think most people think like me, but I will say it just because.
But I said we have a big bush in front of our house.
You said we have a big bush.
I will listen back for it when I go to edit.
Okay. And I just will tell you, as a child, meaning I have the mind of a child, I didn't hear anything you said after that because I was giggling, and then you said it a second time.
I will look for it.
I will let it go.